what made you transition, or what inspired you to become an officer?
Well, it's important to note that when I say work harder, I joke, I think I've actually said it to you before, that the title of my book is going to be Lucky Over Smart, because, I'm not really that bright of a guy, but I'm willing to work hard. And in the early years, the one thing I didn't tell you was the last thing that my grandmother said before I got on the bus, literally the bus, so these are the old days, to
Yep,
go to the
yep.
NAP station to go through my full enrollment. The last thing she said as the bus picked me up in front of her house is she turned around and she pointed and she said, "This is all you have to come home to." So literally, don't screw it up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Wow.
so the whole time I was in school, I remember this one guy, his name was JD, and the whole time he was talking about is, "I'm going to drop out of this and go back. We got a farm, we got cars, we got this. I'm going to go do this." And he's like, "What about you?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't have any other options, right? This has to work out."
Right,
And
right.
so it did. I'm not going to say everything went perfectly, but I was always willing to. I was the first one there. I was the last one to leave, because I didn't really see that where there was anything else for me to do. I didn't have an education. I mean, there's not a lot of jobs operating nuclear reactors outside of the Navy at the time, right?
Right,
Um,
yeah.
and then the Seaman to Admiral program, Admiral Borda launched that he was, reinstating the Seaman to Admiral program. And so this was a chance for, you had to be an E5 or an E6. You had to have been in the Navy X amount of time. And it was an interesting program. They were basically going to send you to regular OCS, commission you as an officer. You'd go out to the fleet, and then sometime over the next period of time, you'd go finish your college degree.
Yeah.
And so 2,000 people applied, and they were going to select 50, and I was number 51.
Oh
And
my gosh. How do you even know that? Like, most people don't know like where they went. You must have known somebody maybe to like tell you that. Maybe
no,
one
no,
of
no.
your
So,
superiors.
so all I was told originally was you didn't get accepted.
Oh man.
So it was 2 weeks before the class was starting, and I was getting ready to go to my next enlisted duty assignment. I get a phone call, and they said, "Somebody dropped out. You were number 51. You're now in. You're going to OCS in 2 weeks."
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and so this was the second time. So I point this out only not to brag, but because it has to do with this chip on my shoulder. I finished boot camp number one. Now I'm going to OCS as an alternate. And when I got there the first day, the instructor, the gunny, made sure everybody knew I was an alternate. He
Are
was
you
like, "This guy,"
serious?
yeah, he basically told everybody. It was just this gunnies and the Marines have an interesting way of doing things. And he said, "I want to talk to everybody who's supposed to be here and you." And so for the first 6 weeks, I was the "and you" guy. And he's like, "Okay, this is a great class, and then there's you." But the thing that he said day one, it turned out he ended up being a very influential person in my life. We remain friends to this day.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things that he said, which I always found interesting, and remember, this is the top 50, 2,000 people applied. This is the 50, well, in
Yeah,
the
yeah. Right.
50. and
Yes.
and we're all standing out there day one, and Gunny Anderson comes out in front of us, and he said, "This is absolutely the worst class I will ever teach." He said, "I've calculated it. I have 264 years of bad habits that I've got to break." And it
Oh,
turned out he was right. We were all cocky. Everybody was there because they were supposedly great. And then you put us in a group and go, "You've got to act just like recruits that are day one in officer candidate school." And we
right,
were
right.
we were an awful class. We were awful at the beginning. We weren't much better at the end, but I did finish number one in that class too. Again, that's that chip on the shoulder thing. And I remember that picture that you have earlier. That was the day of graduation, and I got another one with me and my wife standing there in the gunny, and those are special pictures for us.
That's so cool. So we could pop up that picture here of Tom at his graduation. That would be great. Give kind of everybody a, there he is, the young Tom, smiling. He made it, not only made it, but number one again in his class. Just unbelievable. I mean, I'm getting chills like thinking about this, how you started in this small town in Arkansas with grandma saying work harder than everybody else. You're watching her lead by example. And then you have these moments in your life where they either throw you a curveball or just kind of, really throw down the gauntlet, when this kind of alternate thing you're talking about, like you're not quite the top 50, but hey, you get the spot because somebody dropped out, and we're going to make sure everybody knows that. I could see where that would be highly motivating to prove everybody wrong.